2 Kings 4 verse 1. We are going to read down to verse 6. Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophet unto Elisha, saying, Thy servant my husband is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord, and the creditor is come on to take him my 2 sons to be bondmen. Keep that scripture. If you look at that place carefully, there is something there. The woman cried unto Elisha that this one is one of the sons of the prophet, but as the same while again she said that he's also a servant. If you are one of the sons of the prophet, why do you have to go as far as borrow? Pay attention to them teaching you. And she came, the same woman came and said, My husband is dead, but you know that he is a servant. He's thy servant, and you know this thy servant feared God. Listen there. There is a how will I put it now? If you look at that place there is a mix-up. He cannot be a son and a servant at the same time. Look up the screen. I'm teaching you something. I want to bring out the revelation out of it so that you will see it. Because a son has an inheritance, but a servant does not have an inheritance. People might look at him as a son of the prophet, but the wife said that he is not a son, he is a servant. The same way you can be coming to church and others might be looking at your activities like the activities of a son, and still yet you have the activities of a servant. A servant works because his job is at risk. A son works because of a relationship. I'm bringing out the point there. We are going deep. Take us to verse 2. And Elisha said unto her, What shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in thy house? And she said, Thy handmaid had no. Now you see, this is not even a daughter of the prophet. I'm coming to honor, but I want you to see something from there. She said, Thy handmaid had no anything in the house. She said she doesn't have anything. Then she came and said she has a pot of oil. I'm teaching you something. Verse 3. Then he said, Go, borrow thee vessels abroad, all thy neighbors, even what? Empty what? Vessels. Borrow not a few. Take us to verse 1. The problem of this servant that died was because of borrowing. Are you paying attention to me? The problem was because of borrowing. And because he borrowed and was not able to pay, the debtors came to collect 2 of his sons so that they can be bondmen, so that they work for that money their father borrowed till they paid for it before they will be free. But the woman, when she went to the prophet to cry to the prophet now that there is a problem, the prophet now told her, What do you have? Take us to verse 3. The prophet now told her, Go and borrow. Now, do you realize something? That the first problem with the man was borrowing. Most of the times when you come before God, you know, borrowing is not bad now. The prophet want to address a problem of borrowing, and he still told her to go and borrow. I want to take us deep. And he told her to still go and borrow. And then he told her that borrow not what? Now, if you look at that place, is that borrowing from that place, a prophet wants to address that. Listen, there are things in your life that are negative, but they are not just negative, is because you have not learned how to take advantage of them positively. That is what I'm going to teach you, and in honor you understand that. There is a problem here of borrowing, but he told the woman that had a problem with borrowing to still go and borrow. Why? Because borrowing is not a difficult thing for her, because she has learned it from the husband already. So because she has known how to, the husband has taught her the ways perhaps of borrowing. So going to borrow is not a difficult thing. So for me to solve your problem, I must still take you back to the root of the problem. I pray somebody will find light tonight. That thing that you think has been a problem, in the same root where there is a problem, you will find out that in the same root lies answers. The problem here is that borrowing is not bad, but the prophet now came to align the negativity to positivity. He made them understood that in borrowing, you are borrowing the wrong thing. Now let me teach you what to borrow. In borrowing, don't borrow what you consume to your loss. Borrow what can enlarge your vessel. He's not telling her, go to your neighbors. Pay attention. Pay attention. Verse 4. And when thou come in, thou shalt shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons. Thou shalt pour out into all those vessels, and thou shalt set aside that which is full. Take us to verse 3. It's Bible study I want to do to you tonight. Go and borrow. He has identified a problem, but what he also told her there, listen, he said borrow, but not what? A few. That means he was specific with the quantity that she will borrow. That means if you want to go and borrow, don't borrow a few. Make sure they are much. Now, verse 4. And when they are full, he said you have to set them aside. But first, when you enter, you have to shut the door. Men should not see the procedure to how this oil needs to be multiplied. I'm bringing you to teach honor. I'm coming in a dimension you have not known, and that is why you have not seen result. I want to show you where result comes from. There is a problem here, and he's trying to address a problem using the same problem to address the problem. And this time around, the instruction is that when you shut yourself, make sure you close the door when you get those vessels, and then begin to pour into it. Verse 5. So she went from him and shut the door upon her and upon her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured out. Verse 6. And it came to pass, when the vessels were full, that she said unto her son, bring me yet a vessel. The instructions is that borrow, but not a few. The second thing that happened is that the ones they borrowed, they said the vessel was what? Full. And then she called out unto her son, get me another vessel, because that one pot of oil she had seems not to have finished. Because at the word of the prophet, there was sufficiently enough. And then he said unto her, there is not a vessel more. And the oil, what happened to it? It stayed. Another said, and the oil stopped. Look at that place now. The problem there, if you look at it, number one, there is a problem with vessel capacity. Because when miracle happens in your life, one of the stop to miracles will be capacity.